Okay, let's talk about underpainting. I got a couple of them to do, so we may as well talk about them. But I thought I'd lead you kind of through my setup first. So whenever I begin to set up for a painting, I always take the paint that was in my last session and see what I can still use. I move that from one paper palette to the next, unless I'm using my glass palette. In that case, I don't ever need to do that. I can just scrape it off and move it to the other side of the palette and then just clean that off. All right, so I got a little bit of cerulean blue left as well. No sense in wasting any paint. All right, so underpainting. If you take the time to learn how to underpaint, you'll do most of your paintings with an underpaint. And the reason for that is because it gives the painting such a rich depth that you just don't get by just painting straight up. It gives you much more of a 3D in-depthness on the painting that you just can't get any other way. So we're going to underpaint. Let's see, what have we got? I could do up to 4 underpaintings today, but I think I'll just do a couple. We'll see how that goes and talk about that. So if you guys have any questions as we're going along talking about underpainting, let's talk about it. Now, the style that we're going to do this in is called Vernet, which means it's used with burnt umber. You can also do underpaintings with gray. And that has a different name that I've forgotten. But I have done some of those. And it's basically it's not the same as doing a monochrome painting, but it's close. But how's everybody doing? Hey, Billy. Emily loved your space paintings. That's how she felt about them. She's like, he's really getting good. Hey, Anthony. Hey, Graham. Hey, Dorothy. All right, so this first underpainting is going to be relatively straightforward to do. But first, let me get some... Might help if I got some medium out, so hang on a second, let me do that. Now when I do these, I tend to use a really lean medium. And you don't need much of it. You don't need to get your canvas. You don't want your canvas to get too wet. What you really just want to. So this is a regular. What is this? This is a 9x12, maybe. Yeah, I think this is a 9x12. Looks a little too large to be an 8x10. It's a 9x12. The scene itself is going to be a lighthouse in the distance with a little lighthouse building right there. All of this, there's going to be some clouds up here a little bit, but it's going to all be sort of a very, very pale orange color when it's done. And all this is going to be in fog, except for the boat, which is going to be partially in fog, like about half of the boat. And these barrels that are floating in the water is going to be and then all of it's going to be fog with just a hint of water. Not too much of that's going to show up in the underpainting, but you'll be using everything that's in the underpainting to really, really lay that out. Oh, I'm doing good. I started loading mulch today for the garden, so that's always good. I'm still struggling with my shoulder a little bit, but yeah, it's all right. We'll just take it easy, see how it goes. All right, so I'm just kind of loading up this brush. Now, I tend to start in the corners when I'm laying this color in, and the reason for that is you don't want to put very much medium on the canvas, and you don't want so you just want to work it in. Now, if you saw the video where I painted the last Summer Girl, what was it? The last Summer Girl? Well, actually, I think it was the one before that. That might have been the last Summer Girl. Now that I think about it, you saw me. I kind of took some yellow and kind of did like this all over the canvas when I first started off. And the reason for that is because dealing with oil paint like this. See, that's a little too much medium right there. You don't have to. You really want to spend some time kind of scrubbing this into the canvas, because the longer it sits there, the oils are going to seep out of the canvas. Seep out of the paint and into the canvas, and it'll spread far enough. So you don't want the paint to be floating on top of the canvas in a medium because then when you go to wipe it back, it's just going to kind of be. So you'll see how far we can actually stretch this paint here that we've put on without adding any more. Just come up here and steal some paint and move it on down. So really, a good thing about doing underpaintings is it's a really good way to kind of slow yourself down. I think it's really helped my painting a lot in that when I first started painting, most of my stuff was a little too bright, too light. And then I think I kind of went through a period where they were a little bit too dark. Especially in the case of white canvases versus black canvases. Black canvases, colors kind of pop off of those. You'll see I still haven't gotten any more paint on the brush, so we're just still kind of stealing paint from one side of the canvas, moving it somewhere else. But, so, dealing with an underpainting like this, really what you're focusing on, it spends a lot of time, I don't think I need any, like figuring out the shadows and the lights and darks of your painting. So rather than dealing so much with like the hue, you're dealing more with the values of the paint, where the shadows go, what the shadows look. And I think because of doing that, and I started doing that because of Marion Dutton's portrait course. I'm taking her portrait course back. I started last year, and then I kind of got off of it because I had a couple of shows to do, and then Christmas came, and blah. So I never did quite get to the end of that thing, but I will eventually. All right, so yep, we never did have to go back and pick up any more paint. So I'm just kind of moving this around a little bit. Finish up that last little corner, a little bit around the edge. All right, let's clean this brush. All right, so it doesn't really matter. I've used raw umber for this before instead of burnt umber, and my take on that, it came out okay, but it's not quite as warm. It's just not as. It's kind of like the grays. I mean, the grays are kind of neutral. They're very neutral, and they're colder than the umber. So I kind of like using the Renee style. But if you guys are interested in seeing it in grays, we can do one in grays. It's not a big deal. All right, so we're kind of letting the oil set up here for a second. Now we're going to take a paper towel and we're going to wipe this back. And all this is going to be real important later to the rest of the painting. Now, anything that you leave on there is going to not necessarily going to show up, but it will tint your paint. So make sure so that's why we're going to move some things around here in a second. So I'm going to make that the high. It's going to be a little bit darker, like right here around the lighthouse, so we're kind of leave that there for right now. Won't worry about that too much. And then it's all going to be kind of lighter down here as well, because this is all going to be foggy. Foggy, 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 foggy. There's a slight hint of water, but we'll add some of that back as we come forward with it. All right, now we've got a nice, fairly even tint to this. Bruce. Yeah, no, Bruce. No. It's crazy. Actually, our stores are back stocked pretty well today. We didn't go down the paper towel aisle, but we laid in paper. We usually have a couple dozen rolls of paper towels around here because of me. Because I use a lot of paper towels for my artwork. And of course I have baby wipes all the time. And I usually buy them at the flea market, which is not where most people go to look for them. So just wiping a little bit more of this down. And you can see we didn't let me do a bit right there. We didn't take a lot off, but we did take some more. We still did take some more off. All right. Let's start just like we do with a regular painting. Let's start all the way back in the back. And let's find a nice brush to do that with. Yeah, I kind of like this flat. Now, it's a good idea if you're getting ready to, if you're doing this, is to, and I'm going to do this because I'm really bad about it. I'm going to take a baby wipe, and I'm going to wipe off the palette all of the burnt umber part that has any of the medium in it, because I don't want to pick up. I don't want to pick up any. I want to pick up something that's more dry than what I've been using. All right. So we have got this lighthouse is pretty much in shade. Canvas is, remember I told you I thought it was still a little too wet. I still think it's a little too wet. It just feels a little too wet. Maybe I should let it sit for a little bit more. It's okay. I'm trying to hustle along here, but all right, let's do this then. Instead of starting with, let's let that soak in. Let's go and do the brights. So we're going to have a bright, all the highlights. We're going to have a highlight in the middle of the lighthouse where the light shines through. Mm-hmm. And I'll show. We're going to make that brighter in a little bit because it is going to be the brightest spot on the canvas when it's all said and done. Now down here toward the water line, we have some bright, a little beyond this boat, we have some bright. Yeah, I've also got a bunch of nitrile gloves here. So if I run out of paper towel or I run out of baby wipes, which I don't think I will, then I'll have I can just switch, and then I don't have to wipe my hands off so much. But we're just kind of creating some unevenness here of light in the water. Don't want it to be crooked like that, though. Let's kind of spread it out. There we go. All right. And I'm going to outline this boat just for a second. And mostly, I'm not trying to lift much paint. I'm just trying to move it around so that it can dry out a little bit more than what it has. I'm telling you, if you ever spend much time painting this way, you won't want to paint any other way, because it really puts depth up in your paintings. Even in landscapes, especially in landscapes, I think it really plays a good part in making mountains farther away. I first time I did one of those in mountains, they were I did them in gray, and I was really surprised at how much difference it made. All right. Okay, let's go to, I want a brush that's a little sharper. Now, I have gotten some questions about what size brush should I use in any particular area, and honestly, just whatever suits you is the answer to that question. I mean, I try to get away with the largest brush that I can. Certainly I can't take a brush that's, a 1-inch brush and create the lines on this boat down here. But so I just try to use whatever works good for me. All right. Now this shadow kind of plays in the middle. Now prep for the canvas was fairly easy. It was just 2 coats of gesso, I'm going to put the sketch on here, and then from there, we used to fix it. What is the name of that fix it? Gosh darn, I got the can turned around again. I think it's a Krylon fix it, but I don't know for sure. I can't get my arm up in the air today still, so that's all right. We'll just kind of tip it along here. And we'll blend some of this in just a moment. I'm just kind of putting some of this drier umber on the canvas here. Kind of laying in some darks here and there. And we'll kind of spread them out a little bit. Now, when you're working with the fine line, you'll probably have to reload your brush fairly often. And I'm just kind of ad-libbing here a little bit. Trying to decide the lay of the land here. That should be working just fine. Okay, so now it's really important that part there gets all laid in, because it's going to be in behind fog. So much the same. If you guys watched Anthony's class yesterday, he kind of fogged some things up there toward the end. Much like that. A little different approach to how you do it, but not the same principle. Same principle. All right. Hey, Amy, you're welcome. If you have any questions, Amy, as we go, just let me know. Okay, let's go. Let's see. We've still got a barrel that's off in the distance. Let's pick this. Just the edge of a barrel. These barrels are floating in the water. So they're going to be partially hidden in the fog. Not much, but a little bit. Let's get the outline. So really what you're looking at here when you start to lay these in is where are your darks and where are your lights? I mean, and that's really what it's a study about. It does boost the paint as you come in and start to do the work, but the main thing is it really helps you with your understanding lights and darks, where you want things. This barrel back here is partially in the water too, but we're going to let this paint sit for just a second, and we'll come back and we'll put some darker darks on that. All right, let's get this boat outlined a little bit. So now this is the water line is right here for the boat anyway, not for everything, but we're gonna try something else here in a little bit. We're going to try to lay out a boat that's sinking. I've never tried anything like that, so it should be interesting. Put it that way. Might be in over my head, we'll see. No pun intended for a sinking boat, but I don't need the line to be too fine line here, because there we go. That's better. All right. There's actually going to be a highlight along the edge of this boat as we start to paint it later when we finish it. But I'll show you how to do that in the underpainting as well. All right. Now all this part of the boat is really dark because it's in the shadow. And this part is kind of lighter. darkness. And then we have even lighter darkness right there. That's okay, we'll fix it in a second. All right, and then we've got this part of the boat. It's got some shadows. I'm working off a reference photo in case you're wondering. I'm not just like making this up out of my head. Now, sometimes I work off a reference photo, sometimes I work off a reference sketch. I do my reference sketches in pencil and charcoal, but usually when I'm doing it with charcoal, I'm shaving charcoal off and I'm putting it onto the canvas with a brush. So it's not like I'm not using, well, I am using charcoal sticks, but in a really totally different way than what you normally think of as charcoal. All right, and this is yours. So as you can see, most of our work is going to be right here on this part. All right, now we're just going to wipe this brush out. We're not going to clean it. Whew, it's tiring my arm out. We have to do these one at a time, guys. I go do this, ice my shoulder, come back and do some more. Do a different one. All right, let's just kind of want to blend all this now. I think I'll use something a little different to blend down here. We're going to do these. Well, I'll just go ahead and do that. Let's just go ahead and put that in. This is not one of them big sailing ships. This is just one of them little fishing boats. Little fishing boats. So we're going to be pretty busy the next few days doing paintings. I have two that have the first colors on them that need the final colors on them. I've got this will have, with this one being finished, I'll have 5 underpaintings that need first colors, and then I've got 3 more of these that are sketched. They're a little bit larger. They're a lot larger, as a matter of fact, that need to have their underpainting finished. So we'll have some time to do all of that here shortly. All right. Now, we pretty much got the color down on here. We do want to blend this some, though. But first, let's just kind of refresh this line. This is the hull line of the boat. All right, and let's use this brush right here. Okay, yeah, that'll work. All right, so we're just barely going to touch this up. We're going to now, I have had people ask me, why don't I just sell the underpainting? Well, I guess I could. I had never thought about it. The one that somebody, one of the people that asked me about that actually did want to buy the underpainting. So it was the one with the hands from the Sistine Chapel. You know, I guess if somebody wanted to, but usually I don't think too much about selling my paintings. They just, if somebody wants one, they just ask me for it. I usually sell it to them, but by and large, unless I'm going to a show, of course. But all right. Now, I've got this particular area right here. I've got 4 different levels of shadow that I've got to put in here. So we're going to take a few moments and work on that. Let me clean this brush. Now, I'm going to take this real fine flat brush. I've cleaned it out. I'm going to dip it in some medium. And then I'm going to wipe it out. I'm going to wipe it out pretty good. All right. Then we're going to use this to cut this highlight in on this edge of this boat. Oh, paint's pretty thick right there. Here we go. All right, we're just going to go ahead and run it down, even though we're not picking it up just yet. You can see how much color I picked up right there. A little more medium, wipe it out of the brush. I think I'll take a little bit more medium and wipe it out of the brush again. All right. Now, do I have a, yeah, I do. All right, so we have a really thin highlight coming down the edge of this boat, but it's there all the same. If we can't pick it up at this stage, we'll pick it up in the overpainting, but I think we can pick up some of it here. Let's pick it up with this then. Just a little easier in this case to pick it up with this. All right, and I'm going to use this Q-tip anyway for some of the shading. So I just want to pick up a tiny little bit of this. I want to leave that dark in there, but I also want to create a couple more layers of lightness and darkness right there. All right, that looks pretty good. Let me stop for a second. Michigan Dan. Hey, Dan. So how's everybody doing in all of this mess? Hopefully you're doing okay. I want to take a minute to recognize one of them. You know, I don't know if you guys follow Little Painter Girl, but I saw on her personal page this morning that she sent a message out to all the people where she lives saying if you were a senior or if you were disabled and you needed somebody to bring you groceries or whatever, to call her and she would come out and she would bring you that stuff. And you know, in this crisis, that's pretty awesome. So I just want to recognize her for that because it's just not something you see every single place. So it's a pretty big thing to offer to go out and do that. Now, all right, let's clean this brush and we'll blend this just the last little bit. And I think that might pretty much take care of this one. Flat. Okay. Oh no, we got to do that. We still have to do the darkness on that. This line's not going to be straight because there's going to be water all down in there. Up that way. Close it up a little bit. All right. Now the best way to get these blends in where you want them to be is kind of split the line, take your brush, if this is the edge of the paint, put the edge of the paint in the middle and just kind of pull both sides, and that'll help you get that blended in there where you want it to go. All right, I want a little bit more dark on some of this stuff. Mostly on this barrel, I think. And maybe a big piece of dark right here. Like that. And right in here, like this. So now this paint's had a little bit of time just to sit, let the medium soak in. So now we kind of start adding some of this darker stuff in. Even darker stuff. Not too much of that on the back barrel because it's off in the distance. But we do have some darker things here on this boat. Not real dark, but pretty dark. They're going to be behind a fog when it's all said and done. But all right. Let's get push that off into flats again. Let's get just a little bit of wider flat. We're just going to kind of smooth this, blend this out. Want it to pull up there. There we go. Okay, now down here on the bottom, pretty much have it. I'll do some little bit more blending with a Q-tip here, though. On this bottom part, this dark and this light kind of come in right here together, but then they kind of merge. Let's just kind of here we go. I'll pull that in. Smooth that out, just like that. All right, one last thing here. Let's just kind of blend this line a little bit. Oh, pulled some paint down. That's okay. Go on. All right. All right. So tomorrow, this baby will be ready to. Now, if you use straight linseed oil, it will probably be, well, a couple things. The canvas will be a little bit shinier probably when you're done, when you're dry. But it'll also probably take it probably 2 days to dry instead of 1 day. So just you can add some linseed mineral spirits to your linseed oil, and that'll help. I got to put some clouds in there. I forgot to do that part. So let's put some. I mix my linseed oil 4 parts to linseed oil 4 parts to 1 part. I'll get it right in a minute. 1 part to 3 parts. All right. Push these clouds around now. They're not overly dark. They're going to show up behind this pretty easy. So, all right, let's just get a fan brush now. Blend all this. I think I want, though, a little bit of a cloud head up here. Make the cloud a little bit like that. Yeah. Now, if a giant flying saucer comes out of it, nobody will be surprised. All right. All right. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it for this one. She is fearless. She tells me she's not, but We spend a lot of time together, so I'm telling you, she is. One of the strongest people I know. She would deny it, but it's because she's strong. All right. Okay, well, let me take a break, ice my shoulder, maybe 30 minutes, and then we'll come back. And I've got another one. It's a little smaller. Is it a little smaller? Yeah, it's an 8x10 of a sinking ship on a stormy ocean. So that should be interesting to kind of do. So when this gets done, it's going to be like, I haven't figured. I don't want the fog to be white. I want the fog to be kind of a peachish color, maybe not quite. Almost just barely peaches enough to know that it's a peachish color, but not white. So we'll work on that. The clouds will be kind of darker up there, of course. And then all of this is going to be picking up. This will all be clouds and clouds and fog and fog and fog. And then the boat will be clear. And then there'll be fog laying on the water as well. So we'll have some undertones of water coming up. So it should be pretty, I hope. We'll figure it out when we get done. All right, guys, I'll see you in about today. Yeah, what is it? What is it now? 10 after 3? Is that right? All right, we'll try to be back in about half an hour. See you then.